It didn't hold me back from playing sports, but what it did do in some cases was it made it more difficult for me to connect with my teammates. It's another thing to be in that sporting space and know, hey, I'm not the only transgender person who loves playing this game. And I thought, you know what? Well, this is going to be my experience with my dad being here with me. It's difficult to find the words just how important SWH has been to me. To say that they've been instrumental sells it so far short.
Welcome back to the Pride and Puck podcast. I am your host, Andrew McDougall. This is a big milestone episode. This is episode number 30. It's crazy that we have got here episode 30 for season 3. Thank you, everyone across the journey who's got us to episode number 30. I can't believe that we made it this far and the reception that I got with this podcast since launching it, but it's absolutely awesome that we have got to this episode, and we've got plenty more to come for the rest of season 3. And I've also got some names down for season 4 as well. So we'll keep this rolling as long as people keep putting up their hand to come on and tell their story. But thank you for jumping on board and tuning in every single month on YouTube or on the podcast. You can find us on the socials at Pride Puck Podcast. Hit up Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Give us a subscribe and a like, and do all the good things for the algorithm. Leave some comments, rate and review. It really helps the podcast grow to get out there to more people. For episode 30, I think you're going to enjoy this one. I think we're going to have plenty of laughs along the way. We are heading back across to the United States. Obviously, I'm based here in Australia, but we are heading back across to the United States. And I have sitting there in the background waiting to jump on and have a chat and tell their story. Lexi Shay, welcome to the Pride and Puck podcast.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
I hope I get this right, because I remember when I had one of your friends, Vanessa Vargas, on this show. It's Spokane. Is that where you are based?
Spokane.
Spokane. See, I always get it incorrect.
and you're not the only one. I mean, we have lots of folks who have a hard time with it, to the point where this is kind of a humorous, kind of off-topic thing. One of the things about Spokane that a lot of people in the States know is Gonzaga University. And my now ex-mother-in-law got so frustrated with people mispronouncing Gonzaga and Spokane that she actually emailed ESPN to correct them at one point.
Well, I might get some emails on this show. Who knows? When I was thinking about you emailed me a little bit of info about yourself before coming on the show, and you told me where you grew up in Flint, Michigan. Mm-hmm. And I actually thought to myself, and I don't know if this could be totally incorrect, but I always think of Michigan as a really big hockey hotbed. Is that the case?
Very much so. Yeah. Michigan, obviously you've got the Red Wings and the tradition of the original 6 franchise there. There's been really good minor league hockey there for generations. Now with the major Canadian junior leagues expanding across, there's several teams from the Ontario Hockey League that are now in Michigan. High school hockey is humongous, especially in the Upper Peninsula, as well as the southeastern portion of Lower Michigan and the Detroit area and a little bit further north there. High school hockey is absolutely huge. So yeah, definitely a hockey hotbed for sure.
So your introduction to hockey was, I'm guessing, quite early in age.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My dad had grown up in Flint. We were close enough to where we could pick up local TV from the Canadian side of the border. And so not only was I introduced to the Red Wings at a young age, as well as the minor league teams there in Flint, when I first remember the Flint Bulldogs in the early 90s, and then the second iteration of the Flint Generals. But we also, it was a tradition in our house. Every Saturday night, at 8 o'clock, we would have gotten through the bath, and then we would sit down and we would watch Hockey Night in Canada. We would watch the doubleheader, me and my brother and my dad. It was terrific.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool. It's something that being based here in Australia, I wish we had. Obviously we got that for other sports here because it's not the number one sport, but it'd be cool to just have that saturation on the Saturday night of, prime time, top level hockey.
And it was set your clock by it every single week at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. You turned on, it was CBC Windsor 9 that we pulled in, and most weeks we would get the Toronto Maple Leafs. Some weeks it would be the Canadiens. But a lot of times you'd have that game, and then you'd have a West Coast doubleheader. I noticed when I was seeing you on the wider shot there, you've got the Calgary Flames hat sitting next to you there. And so we would get a lot of the Battle of Alberta, Calgary and Edmonton, a lot of Vancouver games as well, some Winnipeg games. So lots of great hockey from a young age.
And you're still a staunch Red Wings fan?
I've been a Red Wings fan my whole life, and it has been difficult the last 5 or 6 years. But I am, I've gotten it to the point where the nice part about being in the Pacific Northwest, I don't know if you have to deal with this in Australia, but in the U.S. there are things called local blackouts where, because of different TV contract items, you won't be able to see your local team in your local market unless you have a specific channel. Well, here I'm an out-of-market fan, and so all of the streaming subscription services work great for me because I'm a Detroit fan living in Eastern Washington, and so the only time I get blacked out from them is when they're playing the Kraken, and they just happen to be on an over-the-air local channel here, so I can watch those games too. It's amazing.
Perfect. You did mention to me, though, growing up playing hockey or trying to play hockey, there was a cost barrier, and yeah. I find that talking to a lot of people, but I find that especially talking to a lot of queer people about growing up and the cost of hockey. Was it really sort of? You obviously had the love for it. How challenging was that as a kid wanting to get out there and play hockey, but you just that cost barrier?
I mean, I can't explain to you just how hard that was wanting to get out and play, because we had friends in our neighborhood that were able to play. We had friends in our local church that were able to play. And so we went out and supported them, and we went and watched their games. And that just made it even harder because one of the other things that my dad always did with us was on Saturday afternoons at the rink where the minor league team played in town. They had 2 sheets. They had the Arena 1 that was about a 2,500 seat arena, maybe 3,000. But then they had Arena 2 where a lot of the high school games and everything went. But every Saturday from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, they did an open skate. And when I say it was packed, you could barely move on the ice after about 2:10 until about 3:50 because people were there. We were skating every single Saturday. Got to go out in the winter times and play a little bit on the ponds and the lakes because there was a lot of natural lakes in lower Michigan there. So got to play a little bit there, but that of course just whet the appetite even more. And it really made it difficult to not be able to play. I understood it. I mean, realities are what realities are. And with me and my brother both wanting to play, it just was too much of a cost barrier at that point. So we found ways. We played on the ponds, we played in the driveway, we played in the street. We all summer long there was a park at the end of our road that they had a blacktop basketball court that at one point the city of Flint decided no one's down here playing basketball, and so they put up chain link fencing as hockey goals, and they put chain link fencing around the side, and so we had an outdoor little basketball court sized rink that we could use as kids, and it's still there. I went back a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, it was for my dad's funeral, but went back a couple of years ago, and we drove through the old neighborhood, and the rink is still there, and I absolutely loved having those opportunities. So it was challenging, but you find your way. You find ways to get engaged with the things that you love, and that was for me how we did that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm always jealous too when I talk to people from North America and they talk about pond hockey and basketball courts frozen over. Just a little bit jealous here as an Australian. We don't get any of that sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah, and it's definitely a regional thing. That's something that you get a little bit in the Northeast, but there aren't as many natural lakes up in New England. The Midwest, the Great Lakes area, though, I mean, it's huge in Minnesota, it's huge in Michigan, it's huge in Wisconsin. On the Ontario side, wrapping around the Great Lakes, there's a lot of that culture as well. One of the bucket list items that I have is to actually go to Minnesota for the International Pond Hockey Championships that they do up in northern Minnesota every year. And I've got 3 or 4 of my friends that I've made through Seattle Pride hockey that I've talked to, and through Spokane women's hockey, that we've just said, yeah, that would be one heck of an experience to get to go play in the pond hockey championships.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always interested in this too, especially for people who grew up with hockey. When you're a young kid skating around on the ponds or at the rinks, was there one Detroit Red Wings player that you used to skate out there thinking that you were them?
Always, always. For me, it was Stevie Eiserman. I mean, I just turned 40 this year. So I was growing up as the Red Wings were coming to the height of their power in the early to mid 90s. And so that whole team was my team, but Stevie was my guy. And still is. It's hard for me to see him in the general manager's chair in Detroit now, because I thought when he came back to Detroit that it was a risk, because it could put tarnish on his legacy in the city if it didn't go well. It hasn't gone the way maybe we would have liked. Hopefully that turns around and continues to progress. I think there's some good young talent in the pipeline, but that's always a risk when you go back to where you had so much success as a player, because it's difficult in that situation to find players who are at the level. I mean, Steve Eiserman was 8 goals shy of 700 for an NHL career. That's an astronomical number. It's the players like that don't grow on trees. And so coming back and trying to continue to build on that legacy there, I think has been difficult for him, but I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful he can get this turned around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always a challenge when you're a legend returning back to a club.
Mhm.
In that sense, 100%. One of the things, just on the Red Wings, before we move on, you did mention, I think you're around 8 years old and you went to a Red Wings camp
Yes.
as a kid. That would have been absolutely amazing, because obviously not every kid gets these opportunities. Can you just tell us about that? It would have been absolutely
Oh,
amazing.
it was phenomenal. It was back in 1992, the 92-93 season. Detroit did their training camp at it was called the IMA Sports Arena at that time. It's now Dordt Federal Credit Union Arena, last I knew. But they had the 2 sheets of ice, and the way they did it was they put the younger players, the ones that were on their way up, the Chris Osgoods, the Darren McCartys, the Chris Drapers, those types of players that were working their way up on the main arena, and they had all the big names: Fedorov, Eiserman, at that time Dino Ciccarelli. All of them were over on Arena 2, where they could get their work in, and people could come watch, but you had to go seek them out. They weren't going to be bombarded. Funny story about that. My dad and my brother and I went, and the way that rink was set up on Arena 2, there were only seats on one side of it, and they only came down about halfway. There were bleachers that pulled out below there when they had games, but they didn't have them pulled out for the training camp. Well, we're standing there, and the players are getting done with their workout for the day, and they're walking off the ice and heading back towards the dressing rooms. And Dino Ciccarelli, who of course was really famous with the North Stars, finished his career in Detroit. Um, he stops and starts talking to this guy next to us, and we're standing there, and Dino's just talking away with this guy standing next to us. And finally, right at the end, he goes, "Okay, Dad, I'll see you later." We were standing next to Dino Ciccarelli's dad and had no clue, had no idea.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What a great story.
Oh, it was amazing. That whole weekend that they were there, that we went, because we went 3 different days. We watched both rinks. At one point, I actually bumped into a guy named Todd McClellan, who went on to a really good coaching career before now, and he's actually back in Detroit as the head coach. I was running through, and he was trying to get from rink to rink, and I accidentally literally bumped into him at 8 years old. But all of that experience, there were wall to wall people, but it was just so amazing to be that close to the guys you grew up watching on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. That's awesome. One of the other things I did laugh about as well. Growing up, obviously loving hockey, all that sort of stuff. Growing up in Flint, Michigan, a hockey hotbed, Michigan, but you had no idea that your dad actually played hockey
This is
until
one
you
of my
stumbled
favorite.
across a bag.
Yes, this is one of my favorite stories, and I have a hunch we're going to circle back to this later.
Yeah, we
Um,
will.
But yeah, I was going through in my basement. There's closets, and as a kid, you're curious, you're looking in places, and I see this great big red vinyl bag, and I pull it out and I open it up, and there's a pair of blue hockey pants, There's a pair of shin guards, a pair of red, white, and blue gloves, and there were a couple of other assorted pieces of equipment in there. Um, I think there were a couple of unmentionable pieces of equipment still in the bag. But I found out that my dad had played 1 year of rec league hockey, and it was in 1973-74. And the reason that I remember that year is because he made the comment one day that he never got off the bench very much. He wasn't very good. The team was super competitive. And it's one of the things that annoys me about um, some of the levels of hockey that we do have over here is there's people who they think they're NHL scouts in the stands, and there's not. And so they're trying to win. They're really adult league hockey, for my opinion, is about getting some exercise, having some fun, making some friends, and having some laughs. Those are the four things that I try to do every week. And my dad never got that chance. And he ended up on the ice, took one penalty the whole season, didn't have any points or anything. But he made a comment that he skipped a game at the end of his season and was actually sitting at home when Andre Dupont for Philadelphia scored the game-winning goal against Buffalo in, I believe it was Game 6 of the '74 final. And so, like, you'll find the more we talk, I'm a sports encyclopedia. I'm crazy. But he told me that, and that's why that I knew it was the '73-'74 season, because that stuck in my mind. And knowing what I know about NHL history, it cemented that date. But he loved the game, but he felt jilted after that experience because he never really got to enjoy playing the game. And so I could tell that it hurt for him to recall that experience because he wanted so badly to go out and have contributed and have had fun. And he never got that chance. And fortunately, I have gotten the chance that he never got. And I absolutely love the league that I play in now, the tournaments that I've played in. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
It's really sad because yesterday I just finished my first season playing hockey, and it's so funny that you mentioned this because I play in the lowest division there is where I play because I'm a beginner. But even the division above our division, you get these people that they take it too seriously, and
Yes.
I sit back and I'm just like, this is local like beer league hockey. Let's just have some fun and enjoy the game, and that's why we're here, because we love the game. It's not the NHL, it's not the American Hockey League, it's not Europe. It's local hockey. Just go out there and have some fun. So it's really sad to hear that your dad had that experience, but it's still around today, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so glad that I found the Spokane Women's Hockey League, because I have found absolutely none of that in the Spokane Women's Hockey League. They've been tremendously open, tremendously accepting. We have players who are really skilled. We have players like myself who are a little bit on the lower skill end. And we have some in the middle. And we're about having fun. We want to go out there and we want to have fun and we want to laugh and we want to goof around, but get better. And there are times when we'll take teams and we'll be competitive and we'll be a little bit more of that. But it's been so great. I tried to play some co-ed drop-in hockey before that, and it's always one or two guys that just ruin it because they think they're one step away from being spotted, and it just kills the vibe. And for me, the vibe is everything.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, I went into it I just was there for the vibes. That was basically the mentality that I went in with, and it was great. But you do get that little pocket of just too serious on this side, and not just there for the fun and enjoyment of getting out there, being active, and enjoying hockey.
Mm-hmm.
From a young age as well, you knew your identity, and who you were from a very young age. What were the challenges, I suppose, growing up, and knowing your identity at a young age, but also like where I suppose the town that you're living in at the time, but also from a sporting sense, did it hold you back from playing sport or playing hockey? Your identity?
It didn't hold me back from playing sports, but what it did do in some cases was it made it more difficult for me to connect with my teammates because I had, at the time I was living, my dad worked for General Motors for 30 years. And so in the mid 90s, we had to follow the jobs south to Tennessee. And Michigan is a much more purple area speaking politically. And so there was more diversity there than there is in Tennessee. Tennessee is a very deep, conservative red area. And so that's where I really started to know first, for sure, who I was and that I was different, but I didn't dare say anything. And so I knew there were lots of my teammates who, it kept me from getting close with some of them. And that's one thing that I've absolutely always wanted, was to be close with my teammates and have fun, and make those lasting friendships. And that was a struggle for me as a child. When I got into college, I got a little bit more comfortable in my skin. Still didn't tell anybody, but got a little bit more comfortable in my skin. And I do still have some great lasting friendships with some of my intramural teammates from college, from different things. We would play American football, basketball, softball, all of the different intramural sports where it's just kids from the campus playing other kids from the campus. And so I've still managed to make some lifelong friends from that time in my life. But before then, there was a struggle for me to connect, for sure.
Yeah, and I know college you started to get more involved with hockey
Hmm.
in college, and your identity side of things, because we're the same age. I'm 41, you're 40, so I
Hmm.
know that period of time growing up where the queer community was heavily discriminated against, and it was really not safe.
Right.
It's There's pockets of today where absolutely it's still not safe.
Hmm.
But I just remember back then growing up the same time as you, you just know how unsafe it can be to be yourself back then. Did you have anyone that you knew was part of the queer community through college, or anything that you could sort of lean on a little bit, or anything like that? Or is it just totally on your own?
Not until after graduation. After I graduated, there were a couple of other students who I had been at the college with at the same time who also came out as trans. Now, they were both female to male, which I don't know about Australia, but I know here in the US, very different, very different attitudes towards female to male versus male to female. And so that was they were a couple of the first ones that I told. I had a friend of mine who came out just as gay, and he had come out several years before I did. And so he's one of my good friends. But then the other thing that I found surprising, to the point where a good surprising, like there were people, and I'm sure on your own journey you had people who reacted poorly as well, but there were some other people that um, I expected to react poorly who were very much the opposite. And I think that, as much as anything, kind of gave me um, the strength to continue with my journey and to continue making my journey a more public experience for those um, around me. And I still have a few people from time to time that will say something off color, or will make a remark that could be considered past the line. I'll give you one example here, and I'm not going to use names because I haven't talked to them about it. But I am a die hard University of Michigan fan. Michigan football, basketball, hockey, baseball, softball, all of it. I'm a huge Michigan fan. And one of the things that may not be as familiar with our friends across down under there, is the University of Michigan and Ohio State University are, I use the term loosely, mortal enemies. We can't stand each other. So for years and years and years, Ohio State dominated Michigan in football. And the last few years, Michigan has played really well. And I was interacting with a post that a friend of mine made after Michigan pulled an upset win at Ohio State last year. He's a big Ohio State fan. And I was interacting with my friend, and one of our mutual acquaintances came on and intentionally dead named and misgendered me in front of everybody. And my friend shut it down completely. He said, "Nope, this is not happening. This is my space. You can go kick rocks somewhere else." And that was huge for me. I absolutely appreciated that. And I told him as much in a private message after that. Like, that meant a lot to me, that even though we were on opposite sides of this rivalry, that he thought enough of me as a person to immediately squash anything like that.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing because we need more of that,
Hmm.
to have not just the fight within the queer community to get equality and things like that, out there, but to have that allyship, is
Hmm.
absolutely massive, especially in that setting. In, I suppose, I know it's only an online discussion, but
Right.
it's still in that sports setting because sport is very, um, it can be very like that real heavy masculine. There's a certain
Hmm.
environment with sport, so to have that for you in that sports setting, um, it's absolutely huge.
Yeah, I fully agree. And that was one of the things that, the other word I use to describe sports, and a lot of us over here in the US use, US and Canada use this, is it can be very tribal as far as the attitude goes. You've got Michigan, you've got Ohio State, you've got Michigan State, you've got Penn State. But at the end of the day, no matter what team we pull for or who we support, we're all human. And having that human element come through and be a big part uh, of that interaction was so huge for me.
Yeah. Um, Over the space of, I think it was 15 years as well, you
Hmm.
only played hockey a couple of times, and then
Yeah.
in 2019 you came out to your wife,
Yes.
as well. Um, how was that process? How was it received? Because obviously it can go either way. It can really, I suppose, destroy families, or it can go quite well. How was that process for you, coming out to your wife?
So it was difficult, especially at first, and as it would be for anyone. I mean, she had known me as my former self since 2003. So that's 15, 16 years worth of thinking you know somebody, and here I am holding this deep down secret. I talked to her in June of 2019. We ended up at the time, of course, this was right before the COVID shutdowns and everything. I was working in intercollegiate athletics at that point. Um, Long story short, we ended up we were in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma at the time. We ended up moving ourselves and our three kids up here to Spokane in the summer of 2020. Our oldest was not able to get the support that he needed educationally in Oklahoma, and we knew some folks up here who said, "Yeah, this school system is great." We made the move, and for our family, it's been terrific. When we first moved up here, though, one of the things that happened with a lot of places in the US is there were snafus with systems that weren't ready for the capacity that they were hit with. So when COVID hit and I lost my job because it got eliminated because of COVID, um, I had a bunch of unemployment insurance that was owed to me from the state of Oklahoma. And as a result, we ended up in an extended stay motel, the five of us in one room for almost 3 months. And
Wow.
that put a lot of stress on the situation. She was still processing. Um, and she flat out told me later that, it hurt still at that point. We are much, much better now. She's got her own place a couple of miles away from me. I've got my own place. We share the custody of the boys very well, and we support each other and help each other out where we can. It took us a little while to get there, but overall, she's been very, very supportive. It just was one of those things where um, it we had other issues below the surface that didn't help, and so we decided at that point that we're better off as friends who are co-parenting the same three boys. So it was difficult. There are still times when there are exchanges here and there, but that's the way you are with all of your friends, I've found. So she's been terrific. She's been great. I have had nothing but support from her outside of the initial processing period where she was having to work through things, I was having to work through things, but we got there, and that was the important part.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good to hear. Because it's also difficult as well if you've got children. So,
Mhm.
that is another dynamic as well. How are you? How have your children been to you throughout this entire process?
So they still struggle with, they call me dad still, which I'm to the point where in most circumstances that's not a hill worth dying on, is the American expression. For that, that's not a fight worth having. I've talked with them extensively about it. I've had them talk to me about what their feelings are, and they are very, very defensive of me, especially my oldest. He's on the autism spectrum. He is extremely defensive of me to other people. The thing that I absolutely love about my boys, though, and maybe this is a good segue to kind of talk about some of the queer hockey things, but the last 2 years, you can see the jerseys on the wall behind me that I've worn in the Seattle Pride Hockey Classic. And the boys have gone over with me to Seattle. It's about a 5-hour drive. And both years, they have absolutely loved it. And my teammates have absolutely loved having them around. It's been tremendous to see the way they've interacted. There's some pictures that I posted from this year's icebreaker gathering on my social media where my youngest is standing there. This was during the Stanley Cup final, and he's standing at the table in this restaurant. He's watching the game and he's holding up his pride flag and he's just waving his pride flag there. My middle son went around and off of all of the tables, he grabbed as many of the rubber pride bracelets that he could. My oldest made signs for the tournament. If you look through some of the galleries from this year's Pride Hockey All-Stars of Pride game, all of the signs that are laying up on the glass, my oldest son drew those. And they have absolutely been a hit at the tournament each of the last 2 years. It's become the highlight of our summer.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's one of those things where that's how it should be, because when you're at an event like that, there's a reason you're there, and if you're there, we love you and we love everyone who's there, and we're just there to celebrate everyone. It's how it should be. So it's really cool to hear. You're just speaking of the Seattle Pride Classic and the Seattle Pride Hockey Association. You actually have a funny story about your first connection to Seattle Pride Hockey Association.
So the Seattle Pride Hockey Association, I was at my company's holiday party in the winter of 2023. And I'm walking around, and it's a semi-formal deal. So I'm walking around, I'm all dolled up. I use any excuse I can to get all dolled up. I don't get that many of them. So I'm all dolled up. I'm walking around, and I see my facilities director walking around in a T-shirt that says "Hockey is for everyone." And it's got the pride flag colors, the full inclusive pride flag, which with the trans striping and the intersex triangle in there as well. And I walked up to him and I said, "Brandon, where can I get one of those shirts? I want one badly." He goes, "You need to talk to my boyfriend." Now his ex-boyfriend. Well, that happened to be Stephen Thompson from the Seattle Pride Hockey Association. And so about a month or so later, right before registration for Pride Hockey 2024, Stephen made a trip across to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where the call center I was working in at the time was based. And Brandon introduced me to Stephen, and just to make a long story short, I mean, we hit it off right away. Stephen encouraged me to register and play with the Trans Wave team, which is this jersey right here. I played with Trans Wave in the 2024 Pride Classic, made some terrific friends from across the U.S. and Canada, all the way from Boston to Ottawa, down into the Los Angeles area, Portland. I think I was the only one from Washington State on that team that year, but I mean, we made so many good friends that year. And then this last year, which is this jersey right here, I was on one of the draft teams, Edie's Enforcers, and I met a bunch of new friends from that. I actually ended up being named a Player of Pride, which got me into the Pride Hockey All-Star Game, which I have that sweater right here. I was going to hang up all three of them behind, but then the shot was too narrow for all three of them to look good, and so that's why there's a little bit of empty space up there. But I got to be a part of that game, and there's been a group from Spokane Women's League that's gone over the last 2 years. And so we've gotten to spend some time together as friends from Spokane, met a lot of great people. Vanessa's been there the last 2 years, of course, and she's been a terrific friend ever since I first met her. Now, the one thing I say about Vanessa is if I see her winding up for a slap shot, I am out of there. I am not getting in front of that. She brings the lumber with the slap shot. But yeah, I absolutely love being around Vanessa. I didn't get to play against her team this year in the Pride Hockey Classic. We were in opposite sides of the friendly division. But I got to go see her play. I got to go see my friend Jennifer and my friend Renee play. I got to see my friend Taylor, who had been in Spokane, and then they moved to Minnesota. Um, they live in Twin Cities now. They came back specifically for Pride Classic, and I got to see them at the tournament, and I got to watch my friend Brienne play. And last year, 2024, my friend Caitlin was playing, and so we've had a lot of folks from Spokane who've gone over and been a part of that tournament. It's really absolutely the highlight of my summer for sure.
I was going to ask you about Transwave, and I want to circle back to Spokane as well.
Mhm.
But I want to ask you about Transwave because obviously the podcast, we follow Transwave, they follow us on the socials, all that
Mhm.
sort of stuff. One, I think they got an awesome logo, and two, I think the jerseys are absolutely unreal. For people who don't know Transwave, are you able to just explain? If you've got the Transwave, you're watching on the YouTube, you've got the Transwave jersey up there on the YouTube. Can you just explain what Transwave are and I suppose what they mean to you?
Yeah, so Transwave is an organization that has chapters in a lot of different places. There are folks literally all over the country, New York City, Boston. Um, there's folks in Los Angeles, and we have our own Discord server that uh, we chat back and forth, and we try and plan things. We go to tournaments all over the place, and it's a big enough group that it's never really the same team time to time when you play, unless it's like a local thing. Like I know there's a big group in the New York City area that they have a group that plays together with regularity. But for these tournaments, there's so many folks from all over the country that that play in the different tournaments. We play in Long Beach, we play in Seattle, we play in or not Tri Cities, Twin Cities, in Minneapolis, St. Paul. There's a team that just went to Chicago for a tournament there, and it really gave me, like, it's one thing as a trans person to have friends and support from cisgender people, and that's very, very important. It absolutely is, and I absolutely love the support that I have. It's another thing to be in that sporting space and know, hey, I'm not the only transgender person who loves playing this game. And so I made some great friends from my 2024 experience. Still chat with them from time to time. Still follow them on socials, and I'm hopeful to get to play with them again soon. It's a little difficult in my situation being so far flung, and a lot of the tournaments being over east. It's a little harder for me to connect with them physically in person, but there were a couple that I got to see this year at the Pride Classic. That I got to see. One of my good friends that I played with last year, Wyatt, was playing on one of the other teams that I did get to play against this year. And matter of fact, it was the Sunday game that we played. We were both named the Player of Pride for our teams in that game. We got the Player of Pride award, and I flagged Wyatt over when they were taking the pictures after. And this picture is on my social. And we're standing there and we've each got our trophy and arms around each other because it meant so much to me to have someone like Wyatt being a teammate of mine last year and being able to see him again this year and play in that tournament. We were actually line mates in the All Stars of Pride game later that afternoon, which was really cool as well. So the group from Transwave really being my introduction to queer hockey in the sense that we use that term. It was fantastic.
And we did mention your dad's hockey gear earlier.
Yes,
And Transwave and your dad's hockey gear is the full circle moment.
it is. Yeah. So in 2024, my dad passed away on June 9th of 2021. Very unexpected. I had literally had dinner with him as my authentic self the night before, and he ended up having a medical emergency issue that next day, and we lost him very quickly. Devastating, absolutely devastating. Um, so fast forward 3 years, and on June the 9th, I'm playing at the Seattle Pride Hockey Classic, getting ready to um, go out for two games on that Saturday, which was the first time I had ever played two games in the same day. If you've never played two games in the same day, the quads will be burning by the end of the day. They just will. Um, So I got to thinking as I pulled up to the rink, you know what? I've got this really cool connection. We lost my dad 3 years ago. He had in that hockey bag that I found in Flint when I was 8 years old. And he told me the story of his 1 year of playing and how disappointing it was and all of that. He had a pair of Rod Gilbert signature shin pads. And when I say these things are ancient, they are ancient. For those who may not be familiar, Rod Gilbert was a star with the New York Rangers in the 70s. And they've got the plastic kneecap and the plastic pad down the shin, but the rest of it is just like a really thick fabric around the wrap. I still wear them. And maybe I'm crazy, but I still wear them. And I pulled them out and I thought, you know what? Well, um, this is going to be my experience with my dad being here with me. And I scored a goal that day in the first game. And so that was really cool to be able to be wearing something of my dad's on the ice and be able to cash it in and score a goal in one of the games. We won both of them. We ended up finishing second in the intermediate division that year with Transwave. But I told everyone, and I told everyone the story in the locker room after the game, the second game, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. There was not. It was just such a great, cool moment with that team.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. And when I was thinking about it before we hit record today, I just thought to myself, it's something special for you. I suppose your dad's a part of your dad is there with you along the way, along the journey of playing hockey.
And it's part of the reason that until those things physically break, I am not getting rid of them. I will continue to wear them and continue to play in them because it is that connection with my dad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so you should. It's really beautiful. Um, just circling back to Spokane, and when you moved there, you wanted to be your authentic self
Mhm.
when you were there at Spokane, and then you found the Spokane Women's Hockey League, which I've obviously spoken about with Vanessa Vargas in a previous
Mhm.
episode, and the amazing things that they do. How important or how much of an impact has that Women's Hockey League in Spokane played on your journey, not just in hockey, but just yourself personally, to be able to be your authentic self?
It's difficult to find the words just how important SWH has been to me. To say that the ladies of that league have been instrumental to me the last couple of years. This is my third season. We actually just started Friday night, the 19th. To say that they've been instrumental sells it so far short. The support that I've gotten from the vast majority of players in the league. I'll tell one story. I know we want to be kind of moving towards wrapping it up here, but um, uh, this past April, one of the things that I have done in my past as working in athletic communications is I've done a lot of broadcast work, including some hockey back in 2016-17 for McKendree University. And so I thought there was a tournament that we were going to play at in Moscow, Idaho. It's Moscow, not Moscow. Moscow's in Russia. They will tell you this. So we went down to this tournament, and um, my intention was to go down and record the broadcast because I know right now trans women playing sports is such a hot button issue in the US. I was not trying to rock the boat. Well, one of the girls from the league, my friend Renee, um, asked me before she went if she could print up some helmet stickers with my jersey number and with the trans flag colors in a little heart shape. And I said, yeah, sure, that'd be fine. She printed up stickers and had enough for everyone on our team. She gave one to me as well, so that I wear it on my helmet now. But as we got on the ice in Moscow, people started asking questions about the sticker. And I had no idea that these conversations were going on until the second day of the tournament when one of the girls that I play with in Spokane came up to me and she goes, do you have your gear with you? The girls are rioting. They want you to play in this tournament. And I was floored. I was flabbergasted because I fully expected there to be some dissent in there. And from what I understand, there was a little bit, but the majority was just straight support of no, they want you to play. We pieced it together. My equipment was back here in Spokane. We pieced it together. I borrowed some gear from some other folks. I played on rental skates, which if you've ever tried to skate on rental skates, that's hard enough. Try playing on rental skates that are dull as a butter knife. But I played 2 games. We ended up winning the tournament. My same friend Renee took one of the pictures and made it into a banner that we're trying to find a place to hang as a league in the rink here in Spokane. So, I mean, to say that these girls are like sisters to me sells it way short. I mean, they've been phenomenal. It's been I'm probably as close or closer to most of the league than I am to almost anyone else here in Spokane.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's sometimes you find, I suppose, you find allyship and things like that in places you don't expect it.
Mhm.
And it's those little moments there that really open your eyes, I suppose, and mean a great deal, which I can see coming across talking to you actually means a great deal to you.
It was to say it was a surprising place. Politically, Idaho is much farther to the right than Washington, and Eastern Washington tends to be closer to Idaho politically than Western Washington. But Spokane is kind of the exception there, because typically speaking, in the U.S., the more left-leaning areas tend to be the bigger cities, and Spokane's the second biggest city in Washington, behind Seattle. Um, when you look at Idaho, though, Idaho is as deep red gets, and specifically Moscow has some. They've been in the news quite a bit here over the last couple of years with certain groups that have migrated there to try and take it even further to the right. And so to find that support in Moscow, I was shocked. And I wish I wasn't. It probably was unfair to those in Moscow who are supportive. Um, to say that, but it's just the reality of where I was mentally, and I'm so glad that I was proven wrong by what I found when I went down there, and that I think is the lesson from that is to not make assumptions, because if you make assumptions, you don't give people a chance, and that's exactly what I don't want people to do to me. Just give me a chance. If you don't enjoy being around me, if you don't want to spend time and hang out and do things, I'm fine. I'm an adult. I can handle that. Give me a chance. Don't write me off before I have a chance. I did that in that particular case with Moscow, and I am so glad that they proved me wrong, because that's an important lesson I think we could all learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. 100%. There's so many tournaments around with queer hockey now.
Hmm.
And the more guests that I get on, they tell me they're ticking this off. And it's funny because I know you're friends with Vanessa, and Vanessa's ticking off these tournaments.
Hmm.
How many tournaments have you been able to tick off your list across the journey?
So I've only been to 3 so far. I've been to Pride twice, and I've been to the Care Cup down in Moscow. The next one I want to do is I want to do the Frozen Pride in Winthrop, Washington, in February, outdoor rink. That is bucket list for me, to be able to play in a tournament outdoors. I've heard so many great things about the Team Trans tournament in St. Paul. I want to go
Yeah.
to that one. The Chicago one, the Long Beach. There's several others that I want to get to. The next one I want to go to, and a lot of it is proximity. It's about a 4 hour drive for us, which I'm not sure the driving culture there in Australia. I know I have a lot of friends in Europe, and they think 4 hour drive, and they go, "Oh my goodness, that's massive." For us, 4 hours is nothing. 4 hours is get in the car, pop a podcast on, and you're there. Like it's nothing for us in the States to drive 4 hours for a tournament. So proximity wise, that's the next one I want to do, but there's so many more. The one in Chicago that Vanessa and Seattle Pride just went to. There's several in Canada that I want to be able to go up and be a part of. One of the people I played with on Transwave in 2024 is named Kat, and they are from Ottawa, Ontario, and they've got a big Pride Hockey Association there in Ottawa that puts on a tournament. I want to go be a part of that tournament. There's all kinds of different ones I want to go to, and now it's just a matter of time and a matter of finding the ways to fund those trips, because they're not cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. The outdoor rink one is one I'd love to get to in my lifetime. I think it would be really cool. But there does seem to be a lot of these inclusive queer hockey
Mhm.
tournaments popping up. Like even in Melbourne, we've got one that's just been announced recently, Queer Clash, which is happening in April, and there's going to be a draft and all that sort of stuff. It's really cool to have all these different tournaments popping up. Um, When you have been part of the Spokane Women's Hockey League, is there one moment within that playing in that hockey league that stands out to you that is etched in the memory of like a really awesome moment where you're there as your authentic self, being accepted and things like that?
I don't know that I could distill it down to one. For me, there's three. The first time I got on the ice and scored a goal, um, as a part of an actual game with referees and everything. My
I'm,
friend
I'm, I'm,
MJ.
I'm, I'm so jealous. Sorry, I'm so jealous because I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting to score my first goal.
Go to the net. That's what I'll tell you. Go to the net. Stay on the backside post. The puck will eventually pop out to you, and you can slam it in.
Okay.
That's what I did on this one. My friend MJ was bringing the puck down the left wing. She grew up in Bemidji, Minnesota. Played when she was younger. She fed a perfect pass over to me, and I just one-timed it into the goal. That one was really cool. Playing at the Spokane Arena last year, we got a chance to play at the arena before a Spokane Chiefs game. And so that was really cool to get to play on the ice at the arena. Now, the one thing I was not ready for that night, and it's something that you don't really think about until you get on there. In an arena setting, they're trying to keep the fans comfortable, which means it is incredibly hot on the ice. It was probably 72, 73 degrees on the ice. And when you think about all the gear you've got on, I was dying by the end of that game. I don't know how these professional players do it with the ice at
Yeah.
that the air above the ice at that temperature. It's incredible. I think my biggest one though, and the one that I love the most was when I first was playing in Spokane, 2023-24. There was a girl named Kelsey on my team who I grew up skating. Kelsey was a very beginning skater. At the beginning of the year, she was really doing everything she could to just stay upright, but she kept at it. She worked hard. She's a fantastic person. Um, she scored with 2 games left to go in the season. And when I tell you we went absolutely wild when she put the puck in the net, I don't know that fully describes the scene. Like it was one of the things when she scored, we were so happy for her. Because she had put in so much work and she'd been working, she'd been a part of the team. She'd been happy the whole time, just really a shining personality. To see her get rewarded for that was incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really cool because being involved in the Southern Lights here, we had our Division 10 grand final last night, and unfortunately we lost. But the vibes in the rooms and on the ice after the final whistle, it was almost like we had won because
Mhm.
it's just that environment of supporting each other and watching everyone come from starting and really struggling on the ice to then starting to play hockey and play it really well. It's fantastic.
And the growth that you see, like there are friends that I've got. My friend Melissa and I were just texting yesterday. Melissa grew up in the New England area, and she played hockey all growing up. Um, and she was my team captain my first year here, one of 2 team captains we had on the team that year. And she was always focused on um, helping everyone get better. And my friend Mel and my friend Chandra, and I could go down the list, Jennifer, Renee, the whole bunch of them have always been about helping others get better. And Melissa and I were talking via Facebook Messenger yesterday, and she said, hey, a little bit at a time, you're getting there, you're getting better. And I absolutely love the encouragement that I've gotten from these ladies. And I try to give the encouragement to the newer players as well, because that to me is the paying it forward, the passing it on, where what was given to me, I want to give to the next group coming through.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You've done different tournaments. You've played for Transwave. Um, what's the proudest moment you've had within queer hockey?
Probably, probably being voted a player of pride at the Classic this year, because the Player of Pride award at the Pride Hockey Classic is not about um, on ice accomplishment. It's not about you scored the most goals. It's not about you had the most assists or you played the best defense or whatever it was. It's about you represented the ideals of the tournament the best. And so I think this year being named that player of pride for my team would be right there. And the other thing that I was fortunate enough to be a part of this year was I received the Matthew Campbell Scholarship. I was one of 2 recipients to receive the Matthew Campbell Scholarship to the tournament, and I got to meet Matthew's mom at the tournament, and I got to find out more about his legacy within queer hockey, and being able to be a part of carrying that legacy forward was huge for me too.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. Something you should be proud of, 100%. It's really, really special. Is there anything you want to plug before I let you go? Anything coming up for you, or any tournaments or anything like that you want to plug?
Um, if there's anyone in Spokane that's not registered already, we still are always accepting folks to play in the Spokane Women's Hockey League. We've got a couple of non-binary folks who have registered to play with us this year. One's a goaltender, and there's another one that I believe there's 2 that registered. And of course, me being in the league, we've proven very inclusive, I think, over the last couple of years. As far as anything else that I haven't already plugged, I mean, I kind of plugged the Frozen Pride Classic here a moment ago. We are going to get to play as Spokane Women's Hockey at the Spokane Arena again this February. Late in February, we'll get to play before that there. But the only other thing I would say is, if wherever you're at, whether it's Spokane, whether it's Melbourne, whether it's Sydney or New York, or wherever you might be watching this, find out if there's queer hockey in your area. If there is and you want to play, I'm sure they would love to have you. If there's not, and you want, or if there is and you don't want to play, go support. Be one who shows up and watches those games and makes those connections and makes those friends, especially if you want to be a part of helping it grow. Go support. Whatever that looks like. If that looks like helping run the clock, if that looks like just being a fan in the seats, if it looks like hanging out and high-fiving the players coming onto and off the ice, those little things that you can do to support queer hockey in your area, because you're right, it is growing. There's a lot of places that are seeing a growth in queer hockey. For the most part, that would be my thing that I would plug, is just go find out where the queer hockey is in your area and just go support it, because we absolutely love having the support of others.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's funny because obviously I had just finished my first season, and I'd been doing this podcast before I started playing. But now that I'm actually in it, you see it up close and personal. It really does make change. Like it really changes the lives of people within these inclusive clubs. So I totally 100% totally agree with what you're saying.
I think it's so huge, because we had my friend Claire, who I played with a couple of years ago, and we've kind of changed the format with SWH now, where it's more of a very organized drop-in. We rotate the teams. We had a couple of players, unfortunately, when I joined the league, who made the decision not to be a part of our league anymore, and that was a little bit sad, and our numbers are down just a little bit. But we're able to make more connections with more people. Well, that first year, we were still 4 teams in the league, and when I tell you the number of people in the league that saw my boys around the rink just being there and being supportive, my middle one ran up to Claire after the game and asked for a picture one week, and Claire's boyfriend, now husband, took the picture, and Claire sent it to me, and that's one that I absolutely cherish, because again, it's the support. It's showing my kids how to be supportive and inclusive, and how to be a part of the overall bigger community. And that's something that when we come off the ice, we sometimes will have folks that are just little kids. They're giving us high fives on the way in, the glove fist bumps on your way into the locker room, stuff like that. So those moments are so special.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really cool. Those little moments along the way, they're really, really special. Lexi Shay, thank you so much for giving up. We're nearly hitting the hour mark for recording. I can hear my cat in the background carrying on. I think my cat wants to be fed. But thank you so much for giving up your time to have a bit of a chat about your life and your journey to getting to where you are now, and all the amazing things that you're doing within queer hockey. It's really inspiring, especially in today's day and age where the trans community is getting attacked left, right, and center. There's a lot of false things out there. Majority of it is just untrue. So to get you on here to have a chat, it was one of my focuses on for season 3 to get a lot more trans people on here to tell their story. So thank you for jumping on for episode 30, the big milestone, episode 30 for season 3. I really appreciate you giving up your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this. And here's to 10-fold more, 300 more of these episodes. Let's keep this going, keep shining the spotlight on folks who need some support and for supporting the queer hockey community. I know it's big for all of us. We really appreciate you.
Absolutely. If we can get the 300, I don't know, there would be a big celebration. Maybe we'll see. We'll see if we can get there. Yeah, thanks for jumping on. That is Lexi Shay. I am Andrew McDougall. This is the Pride and Puck podcast, episode number 30. Until next month, we'll speak to you then. Ciao.